I love Men of War. What does that mean? Well, that really kind of is like common sense at a Taylor Swift concert. It's a minority in this day and age. But there is a gravity to World War II and the stories that come out of it, not just in their history, but how they demand strategy and consequence. And the Men of War series has always, at least for me, leaned into that weight. Taking away the base building fluff for the tangible tank tracks you snap off, a wounded soldier that you drag to cover, a machine gun gem that you must clear under fire, or being able to customize every soldier's position behind any type of cover possible. In 2024 though, Men of War 2 arrived with a heavy legacy on its shoulders and a storm of challenges beneath it. This is the story of how a beloved, uncompromising franchise tried to come home, grounded by war, ambition, technology, and the loyalty of its fans. Surely it couldn't have been a disaster, but Men of War 2 seems to have gone into the darkness. But what the hell happened to it in its first year of launch? This story begins not on a battlefield, but in a border city forged by history. Best Way, the company, started in Ukraine in 1991. Their first major breakout was Soldiers, Heroes of World War II. This was in 2004. They then released a 2006 sequel to Faces of War and the core Men of War game in 2008. These three games really solidified themselves as strategy guys. They made some fantastic games within World War II that fans started to love. Each game was less of a showpiece and more of a simulator, built for players who scrutinized every bullet, tool, and inventory slot. Pathfinding mattered. Destruction was realistic. If a wall fell, so did the friend behind it. Sometimes if the wall fell on top of them. Critics praised it, Eurogamer marveled at the scenes, saying they're as distinct as they are dramatic, and despite clunky English voiceovers, fans embraced that raw intensity. Over a decade later, in 2021 though, Best Way were back, dipping a tentative toe in Men of War 2 with a game called Arena. You see, the actual developers of Best Way had kind of gone silent. The title and the franchise in general had been taken over by other developers to make their biggest titles, like Assault Squad and Assault Squad 2 with various spin-offs of the like. It grew a fan base and it grew even bigger than ever, but the original development company decided they wanted to make some sort of free-to-play game, and this is where Arena came in, a free-to-play PvP spin-off with a sharper look and faster matches, but it died after months. Servers shut down in September of 2021, and fans were left asking, what is the future? Because this couldn't be it. Arena had the issues of the fact that it was trying to do something arcadey with a franchise that had built itself upon realism. Fans didn't want fast-paced, quick turn-based games. They wanted the slow, methodical strategy that the earlier Men of War and the current Assault Squad 2 game had given them. That pivot, though, carried some extra weight, because this franchise wasn't inevitable anymore. Plans started to shift. Release timelines were stretched, and announcing at the Golden Joystick Awards in 2021 that the Men of War Arena game was being transferred into a new title, a new mainline title, reworked into Men of War 2. Now, the game eventually came out a few years after it was pegged for, May the 15th, 2024. When it arrived, it didn't just appear, it landed with the whole ethos smuggled into its code. You see, the game spanned both the Eastern and Western fronts with three narrative campaigns: Soviet defenders, Americans, and the conflict of the Wehrmacht officer. There were three historical operations. Multiplayer expanded with modes like battalions, combined arms, classic dynamic conquest, and raid skirmishes. Direct control returned, where you can actually commandeer every individual soldier or tank on the battlefield. The destruction was authentic, but there was something just a little bit off. The game still had that Men of War Arena arcadey notion. Why wasn't it the same gritty hardcore title that people were beloved? Especially when titles like Gates of Hell Ostrand, a spin-off of modders of Men of War Assault Squad, had released their own game now, and this was an incredibly original title. People adored it, and releasing an arcadey version felt a little bit like a less accomplished and cheap version of the Men of War series. Critics, of course, were still unsure. To start with, it was about a 63% overall, sliding into 52% in the last 30 days. PC Gamer called it flawed but a rewarding gem. IGN Italy held it for respecting realism through graphics and polishing, but it does need some extra touches. And if I'm going to be honest, that says everything you need to know. If IGN like it, it's probably a terrible game. A major flashpoint was the always online requirement. Even in single player, fans were furious. Steam discussions lit up. One user wrote, "You can't play the game offline. It's really bad time to drop an always online game." Also making the game unplayable for Steam Deck unless you use a Wi-Fi hotspot. Try to make players jump through hoops just to play play your title is never going to end well. The developers actually did respond though. They made a big apology with a roadmap. Offline mode was in, but online was still needed if you want any of the extra bits like anti-cheat. Yeah, well, that was kind of to be expected. The launch wasn't kind. Players reported crashes, menu freezing, single-player triggers failing to register on local servers, and, well, the whole of Men of War seemed to be compromised now because of developers that were named the same as the original guys and the original company, but actually at the heart of it were completely different in general. You see, the game just felt like it lacked content, polish, and everything apart from some kind of pretty graphics. The whole core and the heart of Men of War was gone, and that was of course reflected in the people that made it. A company that had been split off so many times since the originals in 2008 that it never really came back. It was sort of a ghost of its former self. But they weren't done. You see, Men of War 2 still wanted something to come out on top with. So on October 28th, 2024, the signal of change was real. Steel Rain was an update that dropped, and with it, that offline mode. Players can now navigate every campaign and lobby with AI in custom lobbies, and fight without a net connection. The red light in settings marked offline, green light stayed for online mode. However, offline progress didn't carry into online, at least as of yet. It brought more than that though. 8 new rockets, missiles joined the game, new battalions like a mortar regiment with 0 logistics timers and battle ranked reductions, deepened strategic layers, now speed control, even a turbo mode for powerful rigs to simulate furious chaos at warped pace. Tactical nuance held, performance improved, and the developers had answers, but not promises yet. You see, the Discord started to come back alive, but optimism was definitely cautious. Fans saw this offline as water in a dry land. You know, new units of fresh gear and speed toggling was an actual good thing. It wasn't necessarily the fix for the game that everybody wanted, but it was something. So where is the game now? For old school tacticians, it's breathing again. The campaign still bites, frontline feels okay. There are still the issues though with the fact that there just isn't enough missions that really break through the fold. For the casual or the newcomer, it is okay. It's a fine game that you'll get some enjoyment out of it. The pathfinding issues are still here though. The fact that AI will just jump out and run out of trenches when they feel like it, completely destroying themselves, is still plaguing the game. The amateur AI is disgusting. For a title that now completely relies on it because the player base is dead, it's going to cause some issues in the long and the short term. The future though rides on trust. Mods are trickling in with some new scenarios and things like that, and if Best Way can keep some momentum and patches, maybe it can survive as a niche staple. It just doesn't seem like this is going to be the game that everybody remembers from Men of War. Do you know, when you think back of Assault Squad and Assault Squad 2, maybe even something like Faces of War or Gates of Hell, people love those titles, but I don't know if Men of War 2 could be that, especially when you have Gates of Hell Osterfront as sort of the main competitor. It is more realistic, it is more refined, it looks better, it plays better, there's more content, and it's cheaper, and it has more trust with the developers. I don't know what more you could want. It is the perfect game to sort of push on that mantle of what Men of War lacks these days, but I'd love to know what you think. Do you think Men of War could make a comeback, or is it over for this franchise? Is there something more they could do, maybe with a little help from some friends?